Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. We are back with the Week 8 Rapid Rundown. Pat is back. Thanks,
here.
Pat, for joining us. The goal of the show is to hit the entire Week 8 slate, starts, sits, projections, injury news, all of it in 45 minutes or less. You ready, Pat?
Yeah, let's roll. Let's do it.
Let's roll. All right. Just quick note. All of the data is coming from fantasydata.com. Check it out. It's a great spot. Use our promo code FAQS, that's FAQS, and get yourself 20% off of your subscription. And make sure you give the show a follow. But anything more than that, we're just going to jump right into the show. Pat, you're up first with the Thursday night game. That is this evening.
It is Thursday, and let me find the sheet. The sheet is backwards. It has you doing the Thursday night game. I'll let you fix that while I talk Thursday night football. We got Baltimore at Tampa Bay. This one's tricky because Baltimore has a ton of guys that were questionable or that were, dinged up this week, and I can't find the sheet. It's somewhere. Anyway, we're looking at Gus Edwards, Rashad Bateman, and Mark Andrews all being questionable leading into the game tonight. So that's something you're going to want to monitor leading up to kickoff tonight, because if they don't go, then you want to pivot away from basically everyone in Baltimore except for Lamar Jackson. He is a must start. And then if Edwards and Andrews can go, they are also must starts. But after that, even if Bateman goes, I don't like Bateman this week. It's really those three for Baltimore that are my favorites for the week. I'm looking at Tampa Bay. Lenny Fournette is a must start. I think Evans and Godwin are both must starts. And by default, that makes Tom Brady a must start. I don't like it. I don't like starting Tom Brady tonight. But because of the weapons that he has and the fact that he's thrown the ball over 40 times the last 4 games, I think you also have to put him in there as well, but temper the expectations because he is like 85 years old and he probably shouldn't be throwing the ball that much. Cade Otton, one last thing on this game for me. Cade Otton has entered the streaming option at tight end. But because they're playing tonight on Thursday, I don't like Cade Otton. I think you can find better options coming in for the main slate on Sunday. So I would stay away from Cade Otton this week.
Yeah, and if you're tight end desperate, Cameron Brate's already been ruled out, so Cade Otton is going to be a full go. But I agree, there may be some other options on the waiver wire. But you know your league better than we do since we're not in it. So if he is the only option, then feel good rolling out Cade Otton, I would say. One thing I'll throw out there is the over under of this game is 46, and unless Baltimore scores 30. I don't see this hitting the over. And
I don't like that number either. I like the under.
Yeah, the only way I see them hitting over that is with Lamar Jackson having an absolute just feast tonight. So, all right. Next up, we have a London game that is Denver and Jacksonville. So we went from a 46 over-under to a 39.5 over-under. And I think this game is one that Pat, what is she saying? Is she saying Denver or Jacksonville? Better make the pick.
My youngest son is he found some train tracks and he's just banging them together as he stomps around the house.
There we go. Good for him. All right, Denver and Jacksonville. What's funny is Tampa Bay and Denver are two of the worst teams. If you saw JJ Zacharyason's tweet about 2022 scoring versus 2022-3 scoring, Denver and Tampa Bay are both abysmal compared to where they used to be. I do not like this. Russell Wilson apparently is going to get the go Sunday morning.
No, Russell Wilson is that animal on an airplane that no one likes to sit around or next to or near because the dude's doing like stretches and high knees and working out on the flight over there while his teammates are trying to sleep. Don't be that guy on an airplane.
Yeah. Outside of that, I don't like Russell Wilson if he is playing. You are starting Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy if you have them. I feel like this is a game that they can, regardless of who the quarterback is, they're probably going to get you around 10 points. Again, thinking PPR. I do not like Melvin Gordon or Latavius Murray. I think they are kind of filling flex pieces in absolute desperation.
Yeah.
The one guy that is an interesting play is Greg Dulcich, who has been coming on. And it'll be interesting to see kind of if Russell Wilson plays, what he looks like with Wilson, because he had a phenomenal game with Brett Rippon last game.
Yeah.
Phenomenal for a tight end.
For a streaming rookie tight end.
Right. Yeah. Phenomenal for that filtering.
Yeah. We had to put those caveats in.
Yeah. Other side of the ball, Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence is a fine streamable or super flex option. Travis Etienne, I'm not going to say is a RB1, but he is a must start. You're putting him into your lineup. This is when you drafted Travis Etienne in the 4th round or the 5th round, this is what you were expecting all season long. So if you're not putting him in there and you have him on your roster, you need to get him in there. And then Christian Kirk and Zay Jones are just okay options at the position. Christian Kirk's a little bit better.
It's Christian Kirk based on volume alone.
Right. And then Evan Ingram is again one of those streamable. He's been getting
I would take Otten, I would take Dulcich, I would take Juwan Johnson. I take a lot of guys over Evan Ingram.
And Evan Ingram will probably still be on your waiver wires if those guys are gone. So tight end desperation.
Yeah, like super desperate.
Super desperate. And that's fine. That's what I'm saying he is.
Yep.
Up to you, Pat.
All right, let's go start the afternoon slate here. Carolina at Atlanta. PJ Walker's getting the start. He is not a guy, even in super flex leagues, I think he is probably best left on the bench or on the waiver wire. He's not a guy that I'm probably looking to start. I don't like, is it fair to not like anyone from Carolina? I mean, DJ Moore is projected to put up 13.8 points. And that's heavily reliant on PJ Walker. I know he's going to be the primary target, so I'd probably plug him in. But I don't like either running back. Chuba Hubbard, Chuba, whatever. I don't know. He's got an ankle. He's got an ankle injury. Donta Foreman is just a whole lot of meh. I guess if I have to pick one, I'm going to take Foreman. He got, no pun intended, he got more run last week. Hubbard did find the end zone, but Carolina, it's a huge fade for everyone in Carolina, and probably this in Atlanta too. I mean, I've made my disdain pretty clear for the Falcons and the way that they run their offense. Yes, they win football games, but there's just not a whole lot there to like. I mean, Mariota somehow is projected for 15 points. Drake London 10, Kyle Pitts 9, Tyler Algier 9. Like, yeah, those projections are great, but I don't see it. If I can, I'm avoiding everyone in this game, in the Carolina-Atlanta game. I don't want to start anyone unless I absolutely have to.
Yeah, and you're going to have some people that played Donta Foreman and Chuba Hubbard upset about that because they did have decent fantasy games.
They did.
But I agree with you. I'm not ready to trust that just yet.
I'm not ready to. Again, out of both teams, DJ Moore is probably the guy that I want to start. After that, I don't want to start anyone unless I absolutely have to.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Let's move to Chicago, traveling to Dallas. I like my Cowboys to win this game, obviously. The big injury news here is obviously Zeke. The Twitter sphere is kind of going back and forth.
The Twitter doctors?
Yes.
The Twitter doctors. I mean, we did talk about it on the show Tuesday night.
The news we had on Tuesday night was just that it was a bruise.
It was a contusion, yeah.
Right, which just is a fancy word for a bruise. Now we're getting people saying, oh, he has a torn MCL. And the actual, doctor-y speak of it is anything that you have with your like MCL, ACL, PCL, those are all tears to some degree. And the lesser the tear is when it gets called the sprain. So the big thing that kind of I saw all over Twitter was saying Zeke has a torn MCL, but then people were arguing, yeah, but it's like a grade 1 tear, which is also known as a sprain. So why wouldn't you just name it a sprain? Blah, 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 blah. We're not going to get into all that. It is bad news for Zeke. This is what he had last year with
same knee, same everything.
With his PCL, not his MCL.
Different ligament, but same leg.
Right. And so it puts a lot of stress on your Zeke shares. I do not want to be in a situation where I have to play Zeke. I am working right now on having an out so that I do not need to play him, which does bump Pollard up a little bit.
Wow. I think it bumps Pollard up a lot.
I think it bumps him up a lot because I don't believe in whoever else they have as backups in Dallas. But I do not believe in Pollard long term, and I know that makes
Pollard long term. No, but we're talking 1 week, week 8.
Yes.
Yeah, this is a huge bump for Tony Pollard.
Yep, nice little fill in. I think you're playing Dak if you have him. You're playing CeeDee Lamb if you have him.
Yep.
The other news is Dalton Schultz was limited in practice. Hopefully he's able to go. He has been a injury, just kind of nightmare so far this season, which my projection in the beginning of the year about him being a top 6 guy is kind of all going out the window because he's not getting the volume that he needs in order to be a top 6 guy again. On the Chicago side of the ball, you are playing Justin Fields if you have him, most likely, more so because of the rushing upside than anything else. You're probably playing David Montgomery because he is just getting a ton of volume. If you need some upside in there, you can sprinkle in Khalil Herbert, maybe Darnell Mooney. And outside of that, I don't think you're playing anybody else there.
No.
And more so it's like Mooney and Herbert are like DFS bargain bin type of plays that have a little bit of upside, especially if the Cowboys defense, who is known for taking shots, takes a shot on a double move. Mooney can get behind the defense. It's a question of whether or not Fields can actually find him, which is the big question mark. But I'm going with the Cowboys winning this game. And also I like the over. It's only at 42.5. I like the over in this game.
I can see some points being scored there. And so we move now to Miami at Detroit, which is the highest over-under of the week. They have this set at 51, so they're expecting a lot of points here. And I'm assuming that they're assuming Miami is going to score the bulk of them because this Lions offense has just gone anemic the last couple of weeks. So let's start in Miami. You're starting Tyreek, you're starting Tua, you're starting Waddle, you're starting Mostert, and you're probably starting Mike Gesicki because the Lions have been awful against tight ends this year. So you can roll those 5 guys out, no problems, probably no questions asked. I know there are a couple injuries to monitor here. Just really Jalen Waddle was limited. So I think you're full go with every skill player for the Dolphins. I'm expecting the Dolphins to put up a ton of points here. The Lions, Josh Reynolds did not practice Wednesday, and Amon-Ra St. Brown was limited. So there are some injuries there to monitor. So on the Lions side, Goff is acceptable in a super flex league as a QB2. You're going to fire up Amon-Ra St. Brown. Let me see if there's any news or notes here on DeAndre Swift. Let's see. DeAndre Swift was a full participant in practice, so I think you can confidently start DeAndre Swift this week. And then after that, Hockenson is fine. I'd probably stay away from everyone else just because there's so much volatility in that Lions offense. Now, the last few weeks have been really bad. So this is probably the week that the Lions score like 35 points and they lose like 41-38. Just because that's how the world works for us Lions fans. I'm not confident in that happening, but I can definitely see points being scored here by the Dolphins. Lions, not so much.
Yeah, which is interesting because the line is only 3.5 points. So it's a pretty favorable spread if you feel that Miami's going to put up a ton of points. The one thing I will say, though, is Raheem Mostert was also a full go, and Detroit is pretty good at letting up points to the running back.
Oh, he was one of the 5 that, you're starting everyone. Hill, Tua, Waddle, Mostert, Gesicki.
Yeah.
All 5, probably no questions asked.
Yeah.
With the Dolphins.
Yep. All right. Next up is Arizona and Minnesota.
We got 3 shootouts here in a row.
Yeah. Yeah. Another pretty good over-under line of 49. Arizona, you're playing Kyler Murray if you have him. You're playing DeAndre Hopkins, especially after last week. He was just a target monster.
Yep.
You're playing Zach Ertz if you have him.
Yep.
James Conner is back. So
is he? I mean, he was limited. The rib injury can be tricky, and this is a question that I have for a lot of people: is James Conner or Benjamin? Because Benjamin looked good last week.
He looked good-ish. My boy Keontae Ingram looked good.
I mean, that Arizona offense looked. They were clicking last week.
It's for all of the hype that Cliff Kingsbury gets in terms of the passing game. Arizona has been a pretty effective and a volume rushing team, especially even all the way back to last year. They ran the ball up the middle more than any other team in the NFL.
So assuming Connor's a full go for the game on Sunday,
I'm not playing Eno or
you're not playing any. You don't
Dave.
like any.
I'm not playing any of them. Maybe you take the gamble of Connor isn't a full go, and you take the discount on an Eno Benjamin or something like that for like a DFS type of lineup. I'm not doing that in a managed lineup. If I have Connor and I'm in a situation where I have to start him because there are a bunch of injuries around, I'm doing that. But I would like to pivot away from Connor to see just how he comes back this week. On the Minnesota side of the ball, no questions asked. Justin Jefferson is in your lineup. Kirk Cousins is probably in your lineup if you have him. Dalvin Cook, no questions asked, is in your lineup. And then after that, I know Irv Smith has been getting some role here with how bad Arizona's been for tight ends and stopping tight ends. I mean, they've been very generous in terms of fantasy points to tight ends. I don't know if I can trust it. Same thing with Adam Thielen. I don't know if I can trust it. I think it's a lot more of Kirk to Jefferson and Dalvin Cook running the ball. And I do think this game could easily be in the 50s, in the 60s, with both teams scoring 30-ish points. So I like the over possibilities for this game as well.
Let's go Las Vegas at New Orleans. This is the second highest over-under of the week. This one's set at 49.5. This one is going to be a shootout. I believe. Let's start on the Las Vegas side. Devontae Adams, yes. Josh Jacobs, yes. Derek Carr, yes. After that, it gets dicey. I'm not sold on Renfrow, Waller, or Mac Hollins because I feel like you can find better options out there for a wide receiver 2 or a flex option. But Adams, Jacobs, Carr, absolutely. On the New Orleans side, Andy Dalton has been named the starter for Week 8. So you're looking at starting Andy Dalton. Chris Olave and Alvin Kamara are absolute must-starts this week. Michael Thomas still dealing with that foot injury. We don't know if we're going to see him. It probably won't be this week. So he's a guy you could – and this pains me to say this because you and I were so high on Michael Thomas, and he started out so great. He might be droppable, to be honest. So I want nothing to do with Michael Thomas until I hear some positive news, or hell, at least he starts practicing. So a name that I keep hearing and a name that I like for this week as a streamable tight end is Juwan Johnson. He got 5 targets from Andy Dalton, scored 2 touchdowns last week on Thursday Night Football. There's some gelling and some meshing happening there. He is a good streaming option this week, especially with no Michael Thomas. Taysom Hill, Jarvis Landry, Trey. There's no really other receiving. There are options, but they're not weapons. And there's a difference, right?
I mean, I would argue that Hill's a weapon, but not necessarily in the receiving game. So, he's a weapon because they're gonna give it to him like they did at the 5-yard line and give him like that little shot to like
they're gonna screw over the Kamara owners for sure.
Right. Yeah.
I'm one of them.
That's what it is. But for those of us that have Taysom Hill in a couple of leagues.
Yeah, I guess
That was phenomenal. Like,
Yeah.
oh, great. They're
Yeah.
inside the 5. Give
no,
them the ball.
This is a game. You're starting your studs here, and then
Mhm.
you can sprinkle in some Juwan Johnson and some Taysom Hill in some other leagues or in some other formats.
Yeah.
I'm still not sold on it, but all right, let's go to you're up next, Seth. Take it away. Let's go up to the Northeast.
Yeah. A fun little game in the Northeast, a divisional rivalry between the New England Patriots coming to the New York Jets. The Jets are on a burner, and New England is coming off of honestly a pitiful loss to the Bears, where they benched Mac Jones, started Bailey Zappi in the. Goodness, that was early. Was that midway through the first quarter? Maybe in the beginning of the second quarter. It was very early in the game. And now the news coming out is that Mac Jones is going to be starting the game instead of Bailey Zappi. Are we going to see the same thing happen again?
Yeah,
maybe. I think the only real startable players here are you're starting Ramondre Stevenson.
Yes.
Without any reservation.
Yes.
You're starting Jacoby Myers, especially with Nelson Aguilar, Kendrick Bourne. They're all limited, but they're not the target kind of PPR machine that Jacoby Myers has been. And he got in the end zone this past week on a really, really great effort play.
Yeah, but the problem is Mac Jones didn't throw that touchdown.
That is true.
I like Jacoby Myers. I do have Jacoby Myers in my starting lineup in a couple of leagues, but I'm tempering expectations, and I'm just cautiously optimistic that we do see Bailey Zappi because he has proven to push the ball down the field more. Yep. He took some shots. Yes, he turned the ball over a lot, but he took more chances, and it's going to happen. You got to take the good with the bad with the rookie who's not afraid to push the ball down the field.
Yeah. With that said, I am okay with sprinkling in Tyquan Thornton into some DFS plays.
Yep.
Again, not as excited in some managed rosters, but having lived in the New York Jets land of Long Island for long enough to know that the New England Patriots just have a way of beating up the Jets. And this could be the way that Bill Belichick schemes this game to go to try and neutralize the Jets defense, which has been pretty good so far this season. So I could see Tyquan Thornton having a little bit of fun in this game.
Especially since we're probably going to see Sauce Gardner one-on-one with Jacoby Myers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Sauce has been very good at taking away the opponent's best receiver. So just food for thought.
Yep. And what's nice, though, to not contradict ourselves, I think Jacoby Myers lines up all over the place in this game, which means that, yes, he could be one-on-one with Sauce anytime he's outside. The question is going to be whether or not Sauce shadows him throughout the game. And I feel like Jacoby's still going to have some opportunities to get open. On the other side of the ball, Zach Wilson, I do not believe is a startable option right now. Michael Carter does become a flex because of the Breece Hall injury. Yes, we might see some James Robinson the first week. I do not put him in the same category as CMC, where we saw CMC just jump in and take over touches. I do not see that happening. And as long as Zach Wilson is still trying to figure out this offense, I do not like Garrett Wilson. I do not like Elijah Moore, especially with the trade rumors and him being listed out last week. I do not like Corey Davis, Tyler Conklin, any of that. There's not really much in here to kind of like outside of Michael Carter for the Jets. And with the Jets losing Vera Tucker, their draft pick from last year, that was a dominant part of that offensive line. I am even skeptical about putting Michael Carter into many rosters, even though he should get a plethora of touches in this backfield, especially with Breece out.
Yeah.
You're up, Pat.
All right. So we now have Pittsburgh at Philly. Let's start on the Pittsburgh side. You're starting Najee Harris. You're starting Pat Freiermuth. You're probably going to start Deontay Johnson. they're all projected for double digits. Then you get into the George Pickens and the Chase Claypools. Again, we talked about them Tuesday night. Deontay Johnson, he's your safe floor PPR wide receiver, get you 8, 10, 12 points a game. Whereas Pickens and Claypool are more your high risk, high reward guys that are more that you are hoping find the end zone. I'm okay if, at this point in the season, you're looking at your team and you need points. I'm okay if you want to plug in a George Pickens or a Chase Claypool. I like them both in DFS plays as well as guys, again, high risk, high reward. Kenny Pickett is, I don't know what to do with Kenny Pickett here. I feel like you're not starting him in one quarterback leagues. If he is your only option in two quarterback or super flex leagues, obviously you're gonna play him.
Yep.
But if you have a third quarterback in there, I would be okay not starting Kenny Pickett this week in some leagues, just because it's that same, it's the Tom Brady thing, right? He's got weapons, but I'm just not sold on Kenny Pickett just yet. He's going to take some chances, yes. And again, high risk, high reward, but I think you can, if you have better options, go ahead and go with those better options. Now let's move over to Philly.
Jalen Hurts is a much better option. Just throwing that out there.
You are starting all the skill players here. Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, Miles Sanders, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert. You're starting all five. No questions asked.
Yep.
This game this is tied for the largest spread. Philly is a 10.5 point favorite here. We've got an over under of 43. I don't know. I mean, 10.5 points is a lot. Double digits is a lot in the NFL. You like Philly to cover here?
I like Philly to cover.
I would say the only
Pittsburgh
thing
on the road to Philly.
The only thing I like here is the over under, and I like the over. I could see
43.
I could see over 43 happening pretty easily. I mean, you're looking at Philly scoring.
With Philly scoring 30.
Yes, exactly. No, Philly scoring 30 to 35 points in this game. Yep. 31 to 35 points in this game. So yeah, I'll take if I'm going to bet this, I'm betting the over here. I don't like Philly 10.5, but I like the over.
Yeah. All right, moving down to Texas, we have Tennessee traveling to Houston. I love Derrick Henry in this matchup. I think he could be one of the top running backs because I could see Tennessee just absolutely leaning on him, especially with Tannehill not practicing because of an ankle injury. There is a option that we see Malik Willis this week, and a running quarterback just opens up more lanes, even though Malik Willis has not really had much run. And even in the preseason, he didn't have a phenomenal preseason. I could see Malik Willis being able to come in and the Titans just absolutely leaning on Derrick Henry and Derrick Henry rushing for 200 yards in this game.
Henry is an overall RB1 or RB2 potential this week because they are just going to force feed him the ball.
And that's without any receptions. Like he could still in a full PPR still end up as the RB1 because he could end up with 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's
really the only guy I like out of Tennessee this week.
Exactly. Regardless of who is quarterback, maybe a little bit of Robert Woods in there, but other than that, not really. On the flip side of the ball, my love for Dameon Pierce has been well documented. It knows no bounds. So we are firing up Dameon Pierce. We are probably not playing Davis Mills unless we're desperate in a super flex league.
Yeah.
But I would play him over, Tannehill. I would play him over Malik Willis. I would play him over.
I'd play him over Kenny Pickett.
A handful of guys. I'd play him over Kenny Pickett probably. There is a little bit of injury concern with Nico Collins. He injured his groin. He was limited. I think not practicing. Let me double check that real quick. I believe it was not practicing. And also Nico Collins was not practicing. Nico Collins and Brandon Cooks were not practicing. Brandon Cooks looks more like a veteran day, whereas Nico Collins has the groin injury where he could be a surprise no play there, which just makes Brandon Cooks more of an option because if Tennessee does enforce the game plan of just running the ball down the Texans' throats, the Texans are going to have to throw a little bit in order to recover. And I like Davis Mills and Cooks to complete at least one in the end zone this week, and Dameon Pierce also to, put in work. So this is, again, a relatively low over-under and a relatively low spread, just because I think a lot of people don't know which way it's going to go, which means Houston has an option to give you plus money if you favor them beating out Tennessee.
And we follow that game with potential for another stinker. We got Washington at Indy. Yeah. This is the lowest over under. Let me just make sure. It's tied for the lowest over under at 39.5. Indy's a 3-point favorite here. So let's start with Indy. Jonathan Taylor, yes. Michael Pittman Jr., probably. Matt Ryan's out, done for the year. So they've turned the keys over to Sam Ellinger.
Yep.
Ellinger. That's
maybe. I don't know. You do it your way. I'll do it my way. Whatever. One of us might be right. We could both be wrong.
I mean, Matt Ryan could barely support 2 wide receivers. I don't think Sam Ellinger is the answer. So I would probably lean more Michael Pittman than I would Paris Campbell and Alec Pierce, even though Paris Campbell has come on recently.
Yeah.
It's Jonathan Taylor or bust for me here. And if Michael Pittman, you're probably not benching him, but
you're playing.
Those are the two. Those are the two from Indy that I would feel comfortable starting. After that, anything you get out of them is a bonus, but I probably wouldn't be starting anyone else there. On the Washington side, Taylor Heineke appears to be getting the start this week. He looked okay. He provides you a rushing floor that Carson Wentz didn't. So I'm okay. He's a guy I'd start Heineke over Kenny Pickett and probably Davis Mills as well. And probably Tannehill. I like Taylor Heineke. I'm starting Terry McLaurin. I don't know about Curtis Samuel. He's projected third highest here with 11 points. I'm probably going to stay away from Curtis Samuel.
He gets a lot of targets. That's what you're banking on with Curtis Samuel.
So from an injury perspective here, Jahan Dotson did not practice. Logan Thomas was limited, and that's really it as far as offensive injuries here. So let's go back over to Washington. Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson are both projected around 8.5 to 9.5 points. I guess Robinson, because he might get the volume, but Antonio Gibson did find the end zone, which salvaged his week last week. I don't like either of them here in managed leagues. You could probably get some sneaky, cheap-ish DFS plays here if you're feeling crazy, but man, there's not a lot to like here in this Washington Indy game.
I'm going to make a claim for Antonio Gibson very quickly.
I like it.
Antonio Gibson is finally being deployed as Antonio Gibson should have been deployed the entire time, which is on screen plays, a little bit more gimmicky plays, a little more plays where they're getting him out and open into space. And Brian Robinson is just taking the straight ahead runs. And Brian Robinson has not been great with those, but they're giving him plenty of volume with them. So it's kind of like, can he find his way into the end zone? And against an Indy team whose defense was supposed to be really good, but then a couple injuries, specifically to what's his name? Shaq. I forgot his last name. But their middle linebacker, who was out with a broken nose and missed time earlier in the season as well. They're not as dominant of a defense. So you may get a little bit out of Robinson, but the fact that Gibson is actually being used in more creative ways now makes him a more valuable player. In my kind of quick look, I'm not excited about starting either of them.
Me either.
But I do like the fact that they're finally after 3 years, and I don't know why now that they're taking away other touches from them, but now they're actually using them in at least slightly more creative ways. Seattle. Did you already talk about Seattle? No, you're
you haven't
we're on
yours
San
yet.
Fran and LA.
San Fran and LA, yeah.
Yep, San Fran traveling to the Rams. The Rams coming off the bye. You're playing Cooper Kupp. Matt Stafford to me is almost unstartable at this point, even though Cooper Kupp is an auto start. Stafford is just woof. And you're probably playing Darrell Henderson just because the running back landscape is a little bit shaky, even though you're not excited about doing it, but mostly because Cam Akers is on the outs and Kyron Williams has not been a thing. So
I would say
maybe
Kyron Williams
because it becomes
Kyron
a thing.
Williams, yeah,
but
I
doubt
don't.
it.
Kyron Williams is nothing this week, but I believe they did activate him from the. He's in the window now. He's in his 21-day window to return to practice. He's a guy that should be stashed everywhere in dynasty leagues. I said stash.
Yeah.
I said stash.
Fair.
I'm not saying you go out and you check your waiver wire first. If he's there, you stash him. I'm not saying you go out and give up any draft capital to acquire him, but you see if he's available and you stash him because you don't know because that running back room there is just kind of bleh. Like Darrell Henderson doesn't do anything for me. The Rams just look bad.
Yeah, and it's more so the offensive line that has just just decimated and looks absolutely terrible.
That's been known from week one. Sorry, continue.
The play of the game, though, is Tyler Higbee because he is just the safety blanket, him and Cooper Kupp. And Tyler Higbee you can get for basically nothing. Well, you had him. You should have scooped him up earlier on in the season, but he is the play of the week right there. Maybe not play of the week, but he is a great streamable tight end. I think he's going to be involved in this game like he has been in all of them, and he'll do just fine. I see your little point there on Ben Skorenik.
Skorenik, he has overtaken Allen Robinson as a wide receiver 2 in this offense. If you need desperation depth play, Skorenik gives something safe-ish floor, not a high ceiling, safe-ish floor if you need, 6, 8, 10 PPR points.
And one more thing, if they're on your waiver wire, Van Jefferson, getting activated off of IR finally, throw him in there. But again, this offense, the way it's being run, it's Cooper Kupp, it's Tyler Higbee, and a handful of touches to the running backs where the offensive line is just getting blown up anyway, so there's no room for them to run. So maybe Van Jefferson changes that. But I think the Rams are really kind of in love with what Skorenik does because he blocks pretty well, and they've lined him up in the backfield a bunch of times too. So he offers more in terms of actual real football versatility, maybe not a ton in terms of fantasy. On the San Fran side of the ball, keep an eye out for Deebo Samuel. He had a hamstring issue last week, which limited his snaps to only 86% of the snaps. But keep that in mind. He did not practice on Wednesday. See if he practices to close out the week. If he does, you're probably good to roll him out there. You are starting Christian McCaffrey. You're starting Deebo if he plays. Obviously, he doesn't. You can't start him. If he doesn't play, I really like Ayuk to come in and be an option, and I really like Kittle to be an option. Kittle started off the season very slow, but
Ayuk has really come on recently, especially the last couple of weeks. So it's getting now with CMC, you have a lot of very good options for Jimmy G. Yeah, I like it.
And Jimmy G becomes, again, another streamable option. Obviously, I like him more with Deebo in the lineup than without Deebo in the lineup.
Yeah.
But again, is a streamable option. Like I take him over guys like we were talking, Kenny Pickett, Davis Mills, Sam Ellinger, Malik Willis, Tannehill, all of those guys.
All those guys. I'm rolling out.
Not a great option. Not a one quarterback option unless
No.
Really
I mean, 2 quarterback super flex. Yeah, Jimmy G he's your prototypical Superflex quarterback.
Yeah, and we didn't mention the buys, but Pat Mahomes is on bye with the Chiefs, and Herbert is on bye with the Chargers. So if you have one of those guys in your normal starting lineup, scooping up Jimmy G and throwing him in there is not a bad option considering what else is on the waiver wire.
I'm rolling out Jimmy G and Andy Dalton in my main Dynasty Superflex league. Yeah,
Andy Dalton may get benched for Jameis Winston.
Yeah, he's starting.
Did they officially say that he's starting?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to double check that. Will you
Go
talk
ahead.
about
All right, I'm going to talk the Giants and the Seahawks. This should be a sneaky good game here. Let's start with New York. You're starting Barkley. You're starting Daniel Jones. No questions asked. Wan'Dale Robinson looked good. He was a bit of a mystery injury that kept him from getting 0 targets and receptions in the second half of the game last week. But somebody has to catch the ball there. So I'm rolling out Wandale and Darius Slayton. Slayton found the end zone last week.
Yep.
You're looking at guys like Kadarius Toney, Kenny Galladay didn't practice on Wednesday. Daniel Bellinger probably out for the foreseeable future. So if somebody has to catch the ball there other than Saquon Barkley, so I'll roll the dice with Wandale and Darius Slayton and start those guys this week. Let's see. Let's move over to Seattle. Geno Smith, yes. Kenneth Walker, absolutely. Kenny Walker has entered, top 5 weekly RB status. Dude looks like a dude looks like a stud. DK Metcalf did not practice Wednesday. They haven't ruled him out for this week. I don't think DK plays. I really don't. Tyler Lockett still dealing with a hamstring injury. He was limited in practice yesterday. So go ahead and check the waiver wire for Marquise Goodwin. Snag him just in case. I'm not a fan.
He probably got already scooped up in when waivers ran, but if he's still out there.
Yeah, I don't like anyone else. I don't like Fant, Disley, Eskridge, really anyone else other than your studs there. Geno Smith, Kenny Walker, Tyler Lockett, and then Marquise Goodwin as a deeper option for Seattle.
All right, real quick before we start the Sunday game, if your fantasy season is already coming to an end, don't worry, there is Underdog to help you out. If you have not signed up for Underdog yet, you need to get in there. Underdog Fantasy is a phenomenal tool. And if you use the promo code FAQS, FAQS, you will get a 100% deposit match up to $100 so that you can keep your season going with weekly drafts as well as pick 'em, where you get to choose over, under for any of these types of stat combinations, which is absolutely phenomenal because a guy like Aaron Rodgers, I might be betting the under on his passing yards because he has just been kind of horrendous this year, and Buffalo has a pretty good defense. So let's use that to jump right into Green Bay and Buffalo. Somehow, through 7 weeks, Josh Allen is doing better than he did last year.
Yeah, he's been a top 5 quarterback every
phenomenal.
week. He's been a top 5 quarterback every week.
Yeah. So Josh Allen is an auto start. Diggs is an auto start. Gabe Davis is an auto start. And then maybe Singletary, you're throwing him in there as a start, especially with the offense kind of going.
I'm all in on Singletary. He is really taken over that backfield in Buffalo. There's not yes, they drafted a running back. There's just not much competition for him. And what little competition there is, he has been out producing and outpacing. So Singletary is an every week starter for me.
I'd put him as an RB3, maybe RB2 setup, more so than like a guaranteed 1-2. But I'm not against it. Not against it. Isaiah McKenzie becomes a high-risk, high-reward play. Same thing with Dawson Knox, which almost all tight ends are high-risk, high-reward because they either find the end zone or they don't, kind of like Will Disley with the Seahawks that you were just talking about, Pat. On the Green Bay side of the ball, I expect this game to be essentially a blowout. I don't like really much on the Green Bay side of the ball. Aaron Rodgers and that offensive line have been just kind of tough to watch, and the receiving team has been even more difficult to watch. They lead the league with drops at 17 is what I just saw the other day.
I did not know that. That's got to piss off Rodgers a ton.
Yeah, I mean he is pissed. If you haven't seen all this stuff on Twitter, he's pissed off a little bit, just a tad. I really don't like rolling many of them out. You kind of have to start Rodgers. I feel like if you have them, because you've probably been sticking them out there and you haven't been able to pick stuff up off the waiver wire because you've been thinking that Aaron Rodgers is going to come back and play. I mean, on the Green Bay side, I'm starting Aaron Jones with confidence because he is their best receiver in the game. And then outside of that, there's not much to love in this.
I would make a case for Alan Lazard if he's healthy, right? He had a left shoulder injury, so that's the one you gotta watch, and we'll know more, right? This is the Sunday night game.
Yep.
So make sure if you're trying to rely on him, you have backup options, not necessarily in Green Bay, but backup options for Sunday night or Monday night. And we'll get to that game in just a second. But if Lazard is healthy enough to play, I think you have to start him just because there is no one else in Green Bay to catch the football.
Yeah, and despite Romeo Dobbs's early kind of like pop, it was really exciting to see him go in the beginning of the season. He has fallen off extremely hard. Tanyan becomes an interesting-ish option here or there.
Yeah,
but again, nobody in this Green Bay offense outside of Aaron Jones do I have any confidence in being able to throw into a lineup and expect them to hit their projections, which are modest at best. All right, so that's all for Green Bay and Buffalo. Also one of the higher over-unders of the week, but that's mostly because Buffalo has an implied point total of 29, which is, I believe, the highest of the week. So, all right, Pat, to close us out.
We're going to close out. We got Monday night, Cincinnati at Cleveland. This is another game over under a 47. This game, this ought to be, at least on the Cincinnati side, this has the potential here. You've got Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon, T. Higgins, automatic starts. Tyler Boyd has entered the conversation. I'm not comfortable starting him unless there's an injury. Yes, he put up numbers last week, but it's still Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Boyd is the last receiving option there. Hayden Hurst has been a productive tight end. He's in an explosive offense. It's hard to rule that out. So if you have him, you can plug him in. I would take Hurst over a lot of the streamable options.
Absolutely.
Going over to Cleveland, there are rumors around Kareem Hunt being traded. Obviously, that hasn't happened yet. So, I'm comfortable rolling out Nick Chubb, Amari Cooper, Kareem Hunt. After that, it's a toss-up because you are having to rely on Jacoby Brissett.
Who has been
okay. Yes, he has shown he's shown some okayness there, but not enough to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to go ahead and roll out Donovan Peoples-Jones. Now Njoku is out. Harrison Bryant is starting this week.
It's not a stream to me though.
He's not a stream to me either. If Jacoby Brissett were better, I'd feel more comfortable starting Harrison Bryant. But like I said, this week it's Chubb, Hunt, and Amari Cooper. Those are the three guys I'm comfortable starting with in Cleveland.
Yeah, and Bryant could be a fun gamble if you have a little extra money in your bankroll to choose whether or not you want to go over or under his yardage there. But I'm not expecting him to just step right into what Njoku took time to get to. Correct.
Yep. So, and that does it for the rapid fire for the entirety of week 8. The entire week 8. Yep. Now remember, the Chargers and the Chiefs are on a bye. Get all of those players out of your lineup.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
For tonight's game, check on Baltimore, check on Gus, check on Bateman, check on Andrews. Mm-hmm. And then make sure you're checking again Sunday and Monday because there are quite a few big name guys who were limited or questionable. Make sure you have options to pivot to.
Yeah. And if you have any questions about those options to pivot to, give myself, give Pat, give the show a quick tweet. Find Pat on the Twitters at Dynasty_Pat. Find me at FFD at Home Dad. Find the show at The Fantasy Facts. With that, have a great Thursday, everybody. It's football. Mostly beautiful fall weather.
That's right. That's right. Everyone enjoy the weekend. We'll talk Tuesday.
Catch you on the flip side.